Hello, welcome to the CV Warrior podcast on the Cultured Violence YouTube channel. Here we shine a spotlight on skilled warriors, those who face combat challenges, embody resilience and inspire others with their journey. I'm Sam Isaac, and today we have a bad warrior with us. So CV are honoured to feature Melanie Shah, Birmingham's own bare knuckle fighting sensation. Will Melanie be looking to return and avenge her Hollywood defeat during 2025 with a fifth bare knuckle appearance? Shah began her journey into bare knuckle boxing when she beat Matilda Wilson via split decision back in 2022. The recent Misfit strawweight title challenger resides in Birmingham with family and is coached by her husband Hab Shah. January 2025 was her inaugural celebrity boxing debut, and there's no time like the present to rectify the highly contentious split decision draw scored during her Misfit strawweight title fight versus Carla Killer Jade. Welcome to the show, Melanie.
Thank you.
So to start off, let's just venture back in time a little bit. Did you dream of sporting greatness during your childhood?
Not at all. I didn't even think anything about sports. I just did what every regular kid was doing and played sports at school, played sports out of school. Never once thought I'd do anything professionally.
And at that age, did you didn't get into fighting until you were older, but did you have a fear of fighting when you were younger?
I had a love of fighting, but I had a fear of fighting in the situations that were sometimes presented. So like there was always a lot of at school or out of school, because then you're dealing with like groups and different
and it's just
gangs,
it's a lot of drama
and a lot more drama handled on it, so I didn't really explore it till later on.
And during your childhood, were there any cultural influences which helped shape who you are today?
Not so much cultural influences. I think I've just in myself always been a type of person that wants to stand up for myself and stand up for other people. I want to be good to others, and I've just tried to always be that kind of person. Yeah,
well, no, it's good to try and always be kind to people, especially if you have the fighting ability as well.
Yeah.
And it's good not just being aggressive and like flaunting it around like Conor McGregor at a bar. But so now I wanted to speak about your warrior journey. So your warrior journey, it's very inspiring. So I wanted to explore that further. What was the most pivotal moment associated with your fighting journey so far, would you say?
Well, I think my first BKFC fight, which was in the UK, in Newcastle, and that was the first UK event that BKFC held. So that opened the doors and allowed me to venture into the sport, and since then it's been a journey and an adventure. So
And back in 2023, speaking of your journey, you became the first British female to challenge for the bare knuckle world title.
Yeah.
Respect for that, by the way.
Thank
that
you.
is amazing. What was the viral 5-round war with Britain Hart? Was that your hardest test to date, would you say?
It was, but not because of the fight. It was actually because of the viral attention that the interview gained, because the fight was what it was. I mean, like, you go into these fights and you can win, you can lose, and you're going to take damage, especially in bare knuckle. But I was really taken aback by how it was everywhere, and everyone was talking about it, and everyone had an opinion. It's just the first time I've had social media like attention like that.
Is there a way to, if you're not used to the attention from social media, is there a way that you get used to that, or is it just something that like?
I think when it initially happened, I didn't know how to handle it, because it's just the volume of attention, and you just can't physically deal with it all. You can't, whether it's positive or negative or questions, you can't deal with it all, because it was in the 25-30 million at a time, and like, so you can't handle that kind of attention. So you kind of you just learn to just like kind of say, okay, I'm not gonna handle it, I'm just gonna kind of ignore it. And then if anything really important comes my way to talk about it or deal with it, then I'll do that. Otherwise you have to kind of put on the
Put on the blinkers and just focus.
And just go forward, because otherwise it takes you off what you're doing.
No, of course. I suppose as well, with the amount of viral attention, it must be like every time you open your phone, there's either messages or someone's talking about you. And
I mean, even now, I mean, it's like it's almost a year and a half later, and like every week, every day, it's like more and more people are putting it up and using it or talking about it, and it's not going away anytime soon.
Well, I mean, I think the best thing to do, which is just embrace it, I guess, which is kind of what you have done.
The thing is I used to try and I used to focus a bit more on the people that were being negative about it, but I've realised that the people that are negative about it, they don't understand what they're talking about, or they're coming from a maybe not a very kind way, like they're looking at it
just online trolls
trolls, or online, again, it's gangs and that. Sometimes you've got people that you fought, and then so they then stir up more hate towards you using things that like the interview. But then the people that are respectful about it are the people that actually care about their opinions, don't care about the haters' opinions, because the haters for a reason, because they're not very nice people, they're bitter people. So
usually it's a lot of jealousy and envy.
Yeah, I think the thing is just it sounds silly sometimes when I say oh, they're probably jealous, but they are jealous because nothing they're doing has anyone's attention. So I got more attention than the person that won the belt, and that's no one was interested in who got the belt. They were interested who bothered to do the interview and stood there with a face all over the place and just said, yeah, I did the fight and I'm happy. But so that still gets more attention than anyone holding the belt. So I understand why I get a lot of hate.
Well, but back to your fighting. So your BKFC debut versus Matilda Wilson, you won via split decision. So the fact that it was in the UK, it was up in Newcastle, did that change fight preparations or maybe your focus a little bit because it's in your home country?
No, well, I mean, it was my first one. It was my first professional fight, so I had no frame of reference to do anything differently. I'd probably just say it's obviously easier doing it in my home country because that's where I live and that's where my children are and that's where everything I know, so I know where I'm going for everything that I need. And then obviously, as I said, it's a big plus being close to my children and my family, because they're a big support to me, and it's hard leaving them when I have to go for their fights.
You have to go overseas and stuff like that.
And you want to be mentally kind of prepared.
Yeah, so obviously skilled combat, boxing, bare knuckle, it all requires commitment and consistency.
Yeah.
And obviously we see you on Instagram, you train a lot, you train constantly. Can you break down a typical day of training for our audience out there?
Well, for me, I don't know if all fighters are like this, so probably not, is no day is typical. So I have days where I'll train first thing in the morning. I might be 5-6 o'clock in the morning. I might not train sometimes till 9-10 o'clock at night. So it depends. Sometimes I'm just kind of easy going with it. If I can train in the morning, I train in the morning. If I can train later on, I train later on.
So basically, you train whilst I sleep doing nothing. That's pretty much what it is. Because at 5 a.m. I'm in bed, 10 p.m. I'm also in bed probably. I'm like an old man now. It's ridiculous. So just in terms of promoting yourself, how active are you gonna be this year, 2025, and when are you next gonna leave the gloves behind and go back to bare knuckle?
Well, I always say this about how active I am. It's out of my control. I'm fighting in 2 promotions at the moment, and when they offer me a fight, I fight. I don't ever turn down fights. So when they give me one, I'll be back in the ring, whether it's with the gloves or without the gloves. Obviously, there's a lot of other fighters that want to fight, and there's a lot of fights going on in other countries, and that's not always feasible for me or feasible for them to bring me over. So I have to just take the opportunity whenever they give it me. But I said before, if they gave me 10 fights in a year, I would do 10 fights. Like, it's not, I don't have any limit on how many I do.
So this next segment is lessons learned and wisdom gained. So each warrior's path is littered with, invaluable lessons. So my first question is, do you have to balance a regular civilian job, or are you all in when it comes to fighting?
In terms of, you mean, do I have a second job?
Yeah. Do you have anything do you have work outside of fighting?
No. I just if I'm not doing fight stuff, then I'm a mum. That's what I'm doing, which is
nice.
I've got 3 children, so that's
how old are your children?
So 17, 15, and 5.
Oh, okay. How do they feel about you fighting?
They're so supportive. I mean, they're actually so amazing about everything, and they keep me level-headed, and they're always my number one supporters, and they literally don't care whether I win or lose.
I mean,
or
I suppose because obviously you're trained by your husband, you're very family oriented.
Yes,
It's great that you have a good support network that you've built around you. I just think that's amazing.
I'm very lucky that I have the support I do, because this is a hard sport, and with all the viral stuff, it was really hard to deal with. So having support from my children, from my family, from my husband, it's really important.
Yeah. Could you explain to the viewers that are unaware of the rules in regards to bare knuckle boxing, what measures, what determines when a fight requires stopping in terms of bare knuckle compared to boxing?
Do you mean in terms of completely stopping, or the ref pulling us apart?
Well, both. Do you feel like there's more sort of TKOs in bare knuckle because the referees want to get in there and then they're worried about fighter safety?
I think that, and this is actually going back to my fight for the championship. This was one issue that I had with people that had comments about that the fight should have been stopped, because I obviously, my face was looking a mess. Is people that don't understand bare knuckle, and even sometimes people that say they do but they don't understand that you can look that way, is that you can look really bad in a fight, but you actually can keep going.
Oh yeah.
And it's completely different to gloves, because with gloves everything looks a lot cleaner because there's not as much blood, and there's no cuts, and so you can think a boxer's fine, but we've seen it hundreds of times, thousands of times, where the boxer keels over at the end, and we had one recently, only a few weeks back, where a young boxer died after his fight. I mean, it happens with gloves all the time. So there are protective measures in glove boxing that aren't actually the same and aren't looked at the same in bare knuckle, because with bare knuckle people just react because they see blood and they see some cuts and that, but that's not that the boxer's about to keel over and
it's because they've just been hit with a knuckle.
That's it. So I get hit with a knuckle and my face starts bleeding, and it might be gushing with blood, but as long as I can see and it's not in my eyes and I can still function, then it has no bearing. It doesn't matter if I'm bleeding buckets, because it's not the same kind of injury that you'd get with gloves.
And similar to the UFC, does bare knuckle have a blood policy? If you're bleeding too much, will the fight get paused and someone will come in and sort of clean you up a bit?
The main thing that with the blood is that if it's obscuring your eyes,
okay.
So because there are certain cuts above the eyes that will literally it will impact your vision. So even if you felt like you could continue, it's just not a safe idea, because you've got a restricted vision. It's
whereas if you get punched above your cheek, there's usually, for some fighters, there's quite a lot of scar tissue there. I know for someone like the Nate Diaz's in the UFC, as soon as they get punched, they start bleeding because they've
I've got some cuts there that I mean, when I did my championship fight, I'd only fought the month before, so all my cuts hadn't even sealed.
No, they hadn't fully healed yet.
So they just opened straight back up, and so it looked like I'd got new cuts in the fight, but they were just the ones from a few weeks before that just reopened.
I mean, that is crazy to me, how you can fight a few weeks before and then just have another one.
But that's why I think that the damage that was done on the championship fight, whenever it's kind of viewed online, no one knows the backstory that it's 2 lots of fighting damage that they're looking at. It's not from one fight, it's from 2 bare knuckles, one that hadn't healed and one that was done on top of that damage. So it's like double. And then, so of course I looked that way because I'd looked pretty bad a few weeks before. So it hadn't healed, and then that was done on top of it. So it's just double damage. But again, you saw me 2 weeks afterwards. Everything had gone down. It was fine. So people have to get over that shock value of like bare knuckle damage and understand that it's not actually very deep, the damage. So it's kind of a few weeks later you look fine and you can carry on.
It's only because like you don't have as much, you don't have any padding, you have wraps, and that's like is that just there to make sure that fighters don't break their knuckles?
So no, the wrapping stops an inch before the knuckles, so you have to clench with knuckles. So the wrapping is really there to
support the wrist
and to support the small bones in the hand. But the knuckles is what's going to impact your face. So
because I've seen like a few Mike Perry fights, and they're always quite bloody and brutal. But it's just I think that's just what happens in bare knuckle. Just another question. Can you reveal the level of ambition you have for your career? Where can you see this going?
Well, I don't really think that deeply about it, if I'm honest, because I came into this sport late. I'm an older athlete, and I'm in my 40s, so I'm competing against a lot younger athletes, and in a sport, in an industry that wants younger athletes all the time. So it's hard to then, even though I'm doing really well, it's hard to then say, well, I want to be here in 5 years, 10 years, because I have to go with what the industry allows me to do.
And I suppose as a fighter, you don't know which fight is going to be your last, really. Not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite confident that like as long as I'm given the fights, I can keep fighting for a long time.
I definitely think you can still keep fighting.
Because every opponent I've had has been younger than me, and in bare knuckle they've been sometimes 10, 12 years younger than me, and I've been beating them. So I don't have no issue with my health, my stamina, my fitness, my strength. It's just more the business side of things. Sometimes that there's certain barriers that are put in to stop certain people from continuing, but all I want to do is just keep going for as long as I'm given the opportunities. I know I'm capable, and my health is perfect. I mean, like every time I have a medical, I pass it. I
mean, you're in tremendous shape as well. Obviously, you post on Instagram all the time. You at the gym and stuff like that. So a lot of people that follow you will know that you're in good shape. It is just, it's a weird thing about the fighting industry, especially because you said a lot of the people are so. It's a young person's game. So like a lot of the times you see, especially how fickle a lot of the fans are, and they'll see like as soon as a fighter starts getting a bit older or they have one loss, a lot of people be like, he fell off, he needs to retire.
But I think sometimes I think sometimes it's that the fans sometimes don't have all the knowledge about what's going on in the game, and it's not always about age. I always say it's an individual based.
Oh yeah, no, of course.
So like you can have an athlete who is in their 40s like me, who can perform the way I do, and then you can have someone who's in their like mid 30s and they're struggling because that's just them. It's health is individual, so it's how their genetics is a factor, but then it's also how they look after themselves, what they do, what their nutrition is like, what they train like, what stuff they do to their body and obviously, so I know that I'm very strong and I'm very healthy, and that's why I compete against a lot younger opponents. So I think it's just something that shouldn't be judged like across the board. It should be just on an individual
basis. Yeah.
And especially with females, I think females are judged a lot harsher. The moment they hit like 40, then that's almost like, oh, that's a cut off for a lot of women.
I think I was gonna. I wanted to mention before when you were talking about after your title fight, how bloody your face was, and how I think another thing that makes that so viral is because people aren't used to seeing women in that like typical sense. Obviously, when everyone thinks of like fighting and boxing, they usually picture two like blokes going at it, but it's it's very it's sometimes it's a little bit out of the ordinary for like especially casual fight fans as well, and just people who aren't familiar to the sport to see that.
Well, one of the things that I did try and highlight myself was that like there was on the same night that I had my fight, there was men on that card that had fights that had lost, and their faces looked identical to mine.
Yeah.
And no one said anything. Nothing was said, because they're guys, and it's like, oh, they're a bare knuckle warrior.
Yeah, okay.
They've taken that, they've gone in and battled. But because I get bloodied and that, it's kind of like, well, you should have hidden away and not shown anyone. It's kind of, and the other thing I have noticed, and a lot of the women do is that you'll see their face if they've won, and they'll be bruised up, but they'll have won. But if they've lost, they hide away. They don't seem to show that they've taken damage and taken a loss, and it's almost like they feel like they've got to hide their face. Whereas the guys don't do that. The guys will show their face whether they've won or lost. If they've lost teeth, I mean, there's so many bare knuckle fighters that have like missing teeth.
Yeah.
The women all have to act like they haven't lost any, but they've all lost. Most of them have lost a few teeth here and there, and they just hide it.
It's a brutal. It is a brutal sport, and bad things do happen. It's the same way. I was in Fearless MMA in Brum about a month or two ago, and I saw the UFC fighter Jake Hadley, and he had a tooth missing.
That's it.
And it's it happens in.
But he doesn't feel like he has to hide it because he's a man. No. So he's judged as a male fighter. When a woman doesn't hide it or doesn't hide the damage, then it's like, why would she do that?
I suppose it's just so it's beauty standards and
and that's the problem, is that I don't like this whole women have it harder. I'm not like a feminist in that kind of way, because I think everyone has their own struggles. But I do find that in this sport, there is a bit more
of a stigma. Yeah,
women have to look pretty before the fight, look pretty at the weigh-ins. Probably try and show off their body as much as possible. Then they've got to be pretty in the fight. Got to still look like a pretty girl fighting. And then after the fight, you need to look like pretty with just a little bit of bruising, but not too much. Still look cute. And if you don't, it's like, oh, don't want to know.
It's like they've been, some of them have been getting in like Hollywood fights.
Yeah,
and they still look alright afterwards.
Just like a little black eye, a little bit of red cheeks, just blushing.
Yeah, and obviously we've spoken about your health and like your training. How do you approach post-fight recovery and like healing your injuries?
I'm really crap. I just literally, sorry, I shouldn't have swore.
No, that's all right.
I'm very lucky because I heal so fast. I mean, really fast. I mean, like after the championship fight, I mean, my face was a mess, but by the end of the first week, I just had a little bit of black eye. That was it.
Yeah.
I mean, like everything goes away really fast, and I think it's partly because my fitness and my nutrition is really good.
It's at a high level, yeah.
So even though I bruise up really quick and I look, shocking after a fight, it goes away so fast. I think my body's just in a very good state of just repair. So it seems to repair very well. I don't do anything extra to kind of heal, apart from maybe have a few days off from like heavy training, but that's probably more because I've been like weight cutting and just straining that kind of way.
You usually fight at straw weight, right?
Yes.
No. And what is that in
So it's 115 in pounds,
okay.
And it's about 52 point something in kg.
Okay.
I have fought at 125, which is about 57 kg. But the lower weight is really tough for me to get to. It's like it's not an easy cut at all.
I mean, if there was a way, would there be a way? Could I possibly fight 2 straw weights? If I'm twice the weight, am I allowed to do that?
I don't know. Maybe there's a bit of a rule in there.
I mean, yeah, if they add that clause, then maybe. But we've spoken about your mindset. A mindset, it can play a significant role in relation to like fight longevity and like your whole fight career as a whole. And I just wanted to ask, how do you define a warrior mindset?
I think a warrior mindset is, I would say, I don't know, it's different for everyone, but I would say for me, it's that I'm going to just do it. That's it. It's like, I'm going to do it. I'm not really cared about the result. I'm not really interested in whether it's a win, a loss, a draw. I'm not really interested in if I get hurt, because I'm committing to doing it, and just doing it until I can't do it no more. So that's what I would consider a warrior mindset, because some people think warriors, you can only class someone as a warrior if they're just winning all the time. But that's not a warrior, because if they're winning all the time, then they're not risking.
No.
If you're really confident that you're always going to win your fight, then you're not risking anything by fighting. Whereas I'm not confident. I had my tough knocked out, I got battered all over the place, but I'll still get back in that ring and fight again. So I'd class myself as a warrior for that, because I'm risking a lot, because I know what happened in that fight. It's you got to risk. That's the main thing. You got to risk and know that there's a very good chance that you might not go your way.
No, and so do you have any routines that you're willing to share that help you maintain this mindset?
Again, I'd love to say I have these great routines, but it's more like just saying that I think more it's that I'd be more annoyed at myself if I wouldn't give it a go. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's easy to say I'll back out of something, but then you have to live with that decision. And I prefer to say I went in and it didn't go my way, or it went in and it went horribly wrong, but then I never gave it a go. So
it's all about. I've asked a lot of people the question about the warrior mindset, and it seems to me that everyone kind of just says it's something that's within you.
Yeah. And
it's just you've got to find it. It can't be like people can help like influence you and help try and bring it out, but at the end of the day, it's like you have to produce that mindset. It can't be.
I mean, when I was doing some sparring a few years back, that was one of the things that someone said to me, and they said that when I'm fighting, meaning me, it's something that can't be taught. So it's not that I'm the most skilled person, but it's that kind of continuing, I'm going to keep going, that you can't teach someone. You can't make someone do that. They either have that or they won't. They could be the best fighter in the world, but if they're given something hard where it's like almost like you're going to lose, they've got to be able to deal with it.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm not coming from a place of going, I win all my fights and nothing's ever going to stop me. I know I have been stopped. I know I've had a hard time in the ring, but knowing that I'd still continue to fight means that I've got something inside that maybe someone else doesn't.
That it's just every time I always get inspired when people come in here, because they always say stuff and it's like, wow, it's just like it's always.
But see, that's something. There's something about you, because the other side of that is there are people that would hear that and they go, "Oh, she's an idiot." You know, the haters online, the people that say things. There are two types of people. People will be inspired, or people will go, "Oh, you know what? Actually, fair play." Whether they agree or disagree on what I'm doing, it's that idea that, you know what, I'm going to push myself. I'm going to risk it. But then if you want to be someone that goes, oh, ha ha ha, look at her face, and I want to say something horrible, and then that's something that's in you that you're bothering to spend your time trying to bring me down.
It's just I've always said that people who will make fun of other people online, I've usually said 9 times out of 10 they're projecting their own insecurities
that's it.
onto other people, and it's just it isn't right. It really isn't right. As we mentioned, we're aware you challenged Britain Hart amongst others during your early career. How much would you say that you've improved since those initial milestones?
Well, I would like to think that I've improved a lot, because I'm always training and I'm always trying to improve on what didn't go right the last time. But she will have as well. Like my opponents like anyone that I've fought in the ring, they'll have been improving since we fought the first time. So someone that I beat or someone that I lost, or they're going to be saying, I've improved as well. So everyone's improving.
Everyone's progressing.
And everyone's got different experiences with other fighters. So, the improvement sometimes is like, it's not even just what you're doing, it's like who you've then been in the ring with. Like I haven't been in the bare knuckle ring really since that fight. So I haven't had as much opportunity to improve that side of things, but I like to think that the things I have improved on will make me a better fighter. But I think it's hard to say how much I've improved. I just know that the fight's still there, and like I'm always trying to push harder.
Yeah.
But in terms of the championship fight, I think even if I'd just fought again and not improved, I'd have done better, because as I've said,
you would still would have had a chance to progress, because
I would have been able to prepare better for it, because I never prepared for the Britain fight. So and because I was still healing and all that kind of stuff, and just that alone would have made it a different fight. Whether I would have won, not saying that, but I would have probably come out different.
Yeah. And I want to say, obviously we've talked about your fights and your milestones, but this next segment is, the impact and legacy.
Okay.
So combat, it not only impacts your life but others around you, and I wanted to ask, what impact would you like your career to have on aspiring warriors out there?
I think it's that don't listen to people that say you can't do something. Like I talked about like being an older athlete a lot, and you always hear people saying that you can't do something at certain ages, and you can't do professional, especially coming from no professional background at all and starting professional fighting in my 40s. Like to win at all is just like kind of amazing, but especially in something like bare knuckle. But so I always want to inspire people to say that it's never too late to do something. It doesn't have to be bare knuckle. It doesn't have. But I'm just saying in life in general, you've always got time, and you'll surprise yourself. And then if you enjoy doing something, then do it.
Yeah.
And don't listen to people telling you that you shouldn't be doing it. Why are you doing it? Don't do it. There's all these reasons why you shouldn't be doing it. Because
at the end of the day, if it's your life, and you should live it the way that you want to. And if you want to, even if you don't make it, as long as you mentioned this before, as long as you try, and as long as you know yourself that you tried, and you tried as hard as you could to achieve that goal, you'll feel more complete, even if you ended up, maybe not going as far as you perhaps wanted to.
One of the things that I don't know if I read it or if it was just a quote from somewhere, but one of the biggest things that people in their later years say is the number one thing is having regret.
Yeah.
And you really don't want to have regret. Now, it could be over anything, and the worst thing about regret is knowing that it's not even you that stood in your way, you let someone else.
Yeah.
Because you can decide, look, okay, I want to do something, but then inside I feel like I actually can't. And so you might want to reason with that yourself and that thing. But to say that someone else, because someone said, you shouldn't be doing it, or you can't do it, or like making fun of you, or being hateful about it, so that's not a reason not to do something. Do it and fail. It and fail badly, it doesn't matter, but at least you can turn around and go, basically
tried.
screw you.
Yeah.
You're not getting in my way. Like you've got to be able to say to yourself, your choices were your choices, not someone else's.
So I wanted to ask, is there a boxing hero or a fighter out there that, you know, helped sort of light that fire in you, that passion for fighting?
I grew up watching the boxing and Mike Tyson and all the greats like that, but I don't really feel like they inspired me to get into fighting. If I'm honest, I remember watching things like Every Which Way But Loose and watching Clint Eastwood having his bare knuckle fights going from town to town and having these random bare knuckle fights, and they were probably the ones that I remember watching, and I really just like, wow. That was like, these were the kind of things that stuck in my mind, and like cowboy and westerns, there was always like these bust ups happening, and I always kind of registered them more than the professional, boxing gloves and that.
Yeah.
They didn't really do anything for me where I was thinking, wow, that would be amazing to do. I was more a bit like the more real, even though they were in films,
because it sort of has more about it, and it's in terms of like big boxing events, and it's a lot different to bare knuckle. A lot of it seems a bit too clean. You've got like big stadium shows. Everything's very similar. Everyone's dressed up, and it doesn't really feel like gritty.
I think it's because it all seems so unnatural. Like, okay, well, we've got the equipment on our hands, we've got the gloves on, and we've got the right, satin shorts, and we've got names on and that, and then we've got the crowd, and everyone's dressed and suited and booted, and the lights and everything, and it's flashy, and it might be great at the time, but when you see like the ones that, like I was mentioning from like the films and that, it is a bit more like random and a bit gritty and a bit raw and a bit more realistic, even if they're in films. And it was just like, also they just felt more like they had more of it was more of a reason for the fight. One thing about the professional fighting is like you have to get around the fact that there's no reason behind you fighting. You're not even though people like to make their fake beefs and that, but it's not, there's no reason behind it. So the more raw and grittier it is, the more realistic that is, because that's how normally it is when when
people fight.
When people fight, it's normally not. It's not because they've had some long arguments or politics. It's because you've looked the wrong way, you said the wrong thing, you've done the wrong thing, or wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah. And
it's kind of like something's happened, and then just a bit more like, okay, there's a reason behind something.
So in terms of the fighting, you're trained under the guise of your husband, Hab Shah.
Yeah.
And does marriage, does it help carry added strain endured from fight camps? Does it help that like your support network, your main trainer is also your husband? It
does help. I mean, it helps just in terms of I've always got access to my trainer.
Yeah.
And I've always got access to my husband. So it's kind of like great, because like, so from both points of view, it's important to have access to, your husband or your trainer. So as I've said, it's like I can train first thing in the morning, I can train last thing at night, I can train in the middle of the day. We can go away together and we'll train.
Yeah.
Like I never have to be without my trainer. Like I've always got access to the person that's training me, but also my husband, and also the support is there in both ways.
Yeah.
As my trainer and the person that's
so he supports you as a trainer, and he also supports you as your spouse as well.
And it mixes like almost like you can't separate the two anyway, because whatever he tells me as a trainer is the same thing as telling me from the husband point of view. And it's that there's no separation, and it's also very good for the children to see, because all they see is that I'm getting support from my husband and their father, and we're working together to do this. Like, so it's very good for them to see.
It is, honestly. I think it's amazing as well. You've obviously both got a lot of love for each other.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going from there. I don't know. I was about. So, we haven't talked a lot about. We've spoken a bit about Misfits, but you've fought on a Misfits promotion card. Just in terms of like the contract, obviously we don't want to get into details like money and stuff like that. But how many fights does the contract consist of, and is it based off audience engagement?
Well, the contract is just per fight, so it's just
one
fight
it's
at a time.
per
So
fight.
it's not like you have like you've been told you're going to have 3 fights or something. It's one fight, and then basically see what happens. You know, and we saw what happened, which was so. I mean, obviously, there's a rematch in the works. You know, I've been assured that that's what I'll get because of it was just completely wrong on the night. But other than that, moving forward, well, we'll have to see what happens. But you know, it is completely different to what I'm used to.
What you're used to
at bare knuckle.
In terms of like the whole show of the thing, was it was it interesting meeting KSI? Did you like speak to him properly, or was it just at the weigh-ins and then you heard him commentating during the fight?
it was just those times in the weigh-in, and then obviously after the fight he told me firsthand what he thought, which was really nice of him. And so I liked him already. I thought he seemed like a nice guy, but I really respected him taking such a strong stance on it. So that was nice. So the interactions that I had were really positive. So.
I think it's good. What it's like we were talking about outside earlier. I think the whole Misfits thing, I think it's good for boxing. They just need to work on bridging that gap a little bit.
I think, like what I was saying about boxing in general, how it seems very unnatural compared to bare knuckle. That's just more of the same. It's just like you have to get some grit into it at the same point as the show side of things. Great, but you need a little bit of grit, and
you need like a bit of grit. You need like a proper issue, something to something to promote, and you need proper people that can properly throw some hands in there. And obviously we have yours truly, and you can do that. But
I showed I did that.
But obviously not all fights on the card are highly competitive, and they're not done by highly professional people. But I mean, it is very entertaining though.
It is, and even the fights that are like maybe not everyone goes for because they're maybe not like as in competitive as you said. But, there's still some entertainment value for them. It's just you need a bit more of the two. Yeah,
and in terms of like the Misfits, do you have concerns that Misfits skill level it may discredit your pre-established fighter credibility, like in the eyes of some fight fans and some critics who aren't maybe fans of Misfits, sort of like it's done for Tommy Fury? Do you ever worry about that?
See, I think with Tommy Fury it's different because he was an established pro boxer. I'm not coming from pro bare knuckle is not the same as coming from
like
pro
a professional boxing background.
Bare knuckle and boxing, even though they use the word boxing, are completely different. It's completely different style and different kind of skills that you need for each, really. So it's not the same in terms of that. But also, for me especially, I came in and I dominated my fight. Whether I got the decision that was warranted is we won't go into, but I proved my case. Whereas unfortunately maybe for some other fighters that have gone in with a pro record, especially pro boxing, and they haven't had a clean cut kind of fight that's not really separated from the influencer side to the boxing side, then maybe for them it's a bit more like it shows that maybe gaps in their game. Whereas for me, I'm not coming from that background, so bare knuckle is completely different. The the people that do a lot of these fights, they wouldn't get into bare knuckle.
No.
They wouldn't, and they definitely wouldn't get into bare knuckle at the level I fought at. So you know, so fighting for the belt against the number one is not the same level as going into a bare knuckle against someone maybe who's never fought before or who's not on that skill.
Have had like one or two.
I mean,
fights.
anyone might give it a go and say, okay, I'm going to try bare knuckle and get in with like someone who's not experienced. But if you go to the most experienced female fighter and you fight your heart out, even if it doesn't go your way, as far as I'm concerned, that deserves some credit.
Yeah, you've gained credit and you've gained a lot of respect as well.
That's it. But at the same point is then going into misfits, which is as close to glove boxing more than bare knuckle is. It's completely different again. I mean, look, if I'd have gone into the misfits fight and they got completely beat, it wouldn't have meant any different to a bare knuckle because they're completely different sports. You are using pillows. At the end of the day, being hit with a pillow, being hit with a bare knuckle is completely different.
Yeah,
it's not saying that people aren't
more
tough that fight with the gloves, and it's not saying that people can't hit hard and knock you out and that. But it is completely different. And most pro boxers wouldn't go near bare knuckle and they wouldn't risk it. So.
I suppose that they worry about their health and how the way people perceive their career
and everything, and they don't want to get, if you're taking a hard punch in a glove, you don't want a hard punch in the bare knuckle. No.
I definitely wouldn't. No. No. But so I just, as we close things out, I wanted to switch things up with a 12-round rapid fire showdown. Okay. So I've got some quick questions and hopefully some quick answers as well. All right. So describe yourself in 3 words.
Okay. Kind, tough, and resilient.
Nice. What is a book, a TV show, or a movie that resonates with you?
Oh, there's too many.
It's hard.
I would see. I was trying to think of a deep answer, but then I was thinking like, oh, should I just go for like I love Terminator 2. It is definitely the best Terminator though. It is. Yeah. It's better than the first one. What is one thing that you can't live without? My family.
Nice. I expected that answer. I thought it was coming. Yeah. What is your favourite way to unwind?
Favourite way to unwind. Okay. Watch a movie.
Nice. Terminator 2. What is your what is your favourite language to misunderstand?
English.
I mean, I feel that way when I'm in Brom sometimes. No, I'm sorry.
All the time, I'm like, what did you say? I don't know what you mean.
I had that problem when I was in Leeds. Yeah, no, it was difficult. What is your most viewed fight replay? So a fight that you love, that you watch.
What, of someone else's?
Yeah.
Oh God, there's so many. If I'm honest, it will be Christine Ferrer when she beats Taylor Starling, and that was epic. That's fun to watch. That's how you want to beat someone.
Yeah. Oh God, I can't remember their names. You know what?
Tell me what you to do, but I might know them. What's it to do?
It was in MMA.
Right.
It wasn't in but I can't remember what it was. It was Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena.
Okay.
That was a great fight.
The one that she lost, or
the one that she lost.
The one she lost.
I think that was a really good fight, and
that was a good fight.
Well, one that I have on replay, Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor, the first one.
That's a good one.
That was I remember watching that when I was like 12, going crazy. What is your ideal post-fight vacation?
Well, it depends where. Well, if I've gone abroad to fight, then it's just coming back home. It's literally
just coming back to England from America. Yeah,
that's I'm just looking forward to going home.
What is your go-to cheat meal?
My go-to cheat meal. Okay, so I'm I'm a bit boring because like I have a very good diet even when I'm not weight cutting and that. But I'd probably say pizza. Yeah.
I love pizza.
I do love pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Domino's?
Yeah, I do like their base.
That is, yeah. No, it's really. I like going there after a while. Who is your favourite fighter of all time?
My favourite fighter for all time. You know what? I probably would say Mike Tyson because when he was good, he was good.
He's polarizing as well.
He is, and you know what? I know there's been controversy about him over the years and that, but I don't buy into a lot of it. And he went through massive trauma with his daughter. And how much respect for a fighter I have for him. When someone goes through that and still continues on, then I have to just say that's a different level of fighting. That's like he's a warrior.
He has.
You have to deal with the death of a child on top of what you're already doing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I do have to respect that.
And he went to prison as well. He had so much bad stuff going on in his life, but he still managed to keep moving forward.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's what the whole warrior thing. It's like you gotta keep moving forward. Like I say, be like a shark.
Be like a shark. Oh yeah, isn't there like a specific kind of fish where if they don't stop moving, they actually like die?
If sharks don't keep moving, from what I remember reading about them, is that if a shark doesn't move forward, it dies. It sinks and it dies. Wow. Because there's something about the movement makes the gills work and keeps them.
I knew it was something to do with that. I couldn't.
So they do actually have to keep swimming all the time.
Yeah.
So if they don't swim, they sink and die. And so that's kind of how I feel about life. Is that
is that why their eyes always look so small? Because they're really knackered all the time. And they just want to go to bed.
Just fake eyes. They're like constantly asleep.
And who is your dream opponent if you could fight anyone in history?
In bare knuckle.
In anything, I guess.
My dream opponent. I don't know. I mean, there's different people for different times. I think. Do you know? I don't know what her name was. So I'll be lying. But she was in Victorian times. There was in England. There was a famous street fighter, and she was like one of the first female bare knuckle fighters, and she was like kind of famous all over. And she was like, so she did bare knuckle like before it got anywhere near popular, and before the guys were taking over, and you know like they'd fight and they'd like hold coins in their hand, and then if you drop the coin because you got knocked out or something,
then you lose.
Lost. And it was stuff like that. Someone like that, someone who really kind of like had that in them back in the day. That would probably be, because nowadays there's just too many people to call on. There's pros and cons to each person that you'd call on. But if we're going back in history, that's probably someone because...
Okay. And offense or defense?
Always offense.
Offense. Yeah, I was gonna say. I pretty much knew that answer. Whenever I see your fights, you're always moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's, as I said, it's just like, you know, if you don't move forward, you sink.
Yeah. Bare knuckle world champ or the people's champ?
Do you know what? I go people's champ because you know what? Nothing is worse than getting a win and having everyone who's watching say you didn't win. So that's why I don't mind about my last fight, is that even though it was scored a split draw, everyone's come to me and said you won. No one said your opponent won.
You didn't win that, or
No one even said it was close. They all said, right from the top bosses of the company to the people, you know, paying the ticket fees. I mean, so people's champ has got to be the winner because there's loads of people holding belts who shouldn't be holding them. So. And
the respect from the people means more than that.
Yeah, of course, and you know you have to respect the people.
And my last question: cultured or violence?
Cultured or violence? No, it has to be cultured violence.
Yeah,
that's it.
But that's what we want to see here, ladies and gentlemen. And it's been amazing talking with you, Melanie. So before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts or advice for the people out there?
My final thoughts would be I had an amazing time. So thank you for having me. And Advice for the listeners would just be, just keep going forward, don't sink low. Well, sorry, I said that wrong. Would be keep moving forward, otherwise you'll sink and die.
Great. Well, all right. Thank you, Melanie, for joining us today, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, jab the like button, comment, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. And until next time, keep embracing that inner warrior. Keep swimming, don't sink, and venture with honour.